Hi, hello, sweet souls. Welcome to Purity and Power. I'm Mafalda. Welcome back if you've been here before. On this channel, I talk about spiritual awakening, higher wisdom, embodiment, and raising the collective level of consciousness in general. And I don't shy away from any taboo topics that may help us and assist us on these journeys toward soul alignment. And I have been laying the foundation, looking at some of these taboo topics, namely death, sex, money, and power. These four keys that really hold so much gold for us, that when we're seeking liberation, freedom, and expansion on our journeys, accessing more higher levels of consciousness that are actually available to us, but that we have not largely been able to access over the last few thousands of years on this planet. And in this video, I want to keep building on that foundation. So this particular video, I'm going to dive deep into the sacral chakra and creativity, abundance, so sexual energy, life force, and abundance. I will eventually get into money and sacred economy, but I do feel like it's important to lay a very solid foundation on these topics so that we don't get ahead of ourselves. These topics can be quite macro, and I want to make sure that I am offering information in the clearest way possible. So we will get to money. But let's talk about sexual energy, life force. I have talked about this in previous videos, but sexual energy is creative life force energy. It's the energy that births, that gives birth to life. All of us on this planet were birthed through this energy. And it's precisely because of the power that it holds, and this goes for all these four topics that I outlined, that these have been the most subjected to distortion, where we've been the most siphoned and the most controlled. And as I was saying, when you can have us stuck in a state of fear and running survival-based programs and mechanisms, you also have us in a state where we don't have control or access to our own creative life force, our sexual energy. And so what happens is that we leak it. And that happens through many different ways, namely release. So we are a culture that is obsessed with releasing sexual energy, and that comes through instant gratification in a multitude of ways, like pornography, like engaging in intimacy with multiple partners only to reach climax and basically release all that energy. And what that does is we're not circulating, we're not nurturing and channeling that energy in a conscious, healthy way. Does this mean that we're not supposed to have intimacy with another? Of course not. But when we're coming at it from a place of unconscious drive and desire, we are leaking it. And that means we're not holding it. We're not aware of how to direct it and channel it in the most productive of ways, in the most inspiring and expansive of ways. So this energy that we have that's housed in our sacral chakra is actually the key to unlocking flow and abundance in life. Sacral chakra energy, sexual energy, is also creative energy. And our creativity needs to flow. It needs to move. That is the natural state of our being, because we are creations ourselves and we are creators ourselves. So that's the natural flow of life. Our creativity is what births, is what we offer to the world, is our giving. And it's divine law that we give and receive. So if we're just giving but not receiving, or just taking but not giving, we are blocking the natural creative flow of life. And so to enter this flow, to allow this flow, is also to activate our natural state of being, which is abundant in and of itself. And what abundance, really means is a state of having more than enough, of having plenty, of being plentiful. And you can see, of course, how that relates to money, except I'm not going to go dive deep into that subject in this particular video, but it relates to money, of course, but we're not going to go there just yet. But it's about having more than enough. It's about not feeling like anything is lacking. So it's the opposite, or it could be seen as the opposite of scarcity, right? It's the opposite of lack, when you don't feel like something's missing. And actually, scarcity is the way we've been operating on this planet for such a long time. So, which actually goes against our true nature, the true nature of abundance, of feeling in flow, feeling provided for, feeling safe on this planet. And you can see how this energy comes in the sacral, right? So above the root being this safety, the root be feeling like I belong, like I have a place on this earth. If I have a place on this earth, if I belong here, then naturally I have everything that I need to sustain that life here. And when we unlock our creative energy, when we start to create, to birth, to bring forth our ideas, we naturally, unlock that state of abundance, of feeling like life provides. That's why it's so linked to value, because when we create, when we are creative, we are naturally adding value. We are naturally bringing forth ideas, different ways of doing things. And please bear in mind that creativity is not only related to it's not only related to artistry or art. Creativity is the energy of creation. It's the energy of imagination, of bringing forth the new, of bringing forth creation that is truthful and honest and authentic. And that can happen in any field. And once we're giving in that way, we connect with our value, we add value, and that's directly linked to our sense of worthiness. When you are tapped into your own sense of worthiness, you know that what you're putting out needs to come back to you, that is the natural flow, as I was saying. So it's natural that you will receive in exchange for what you give, not in a transactional way, but in an organic, because it's divine law. That's the natural flow of things. Now, of course, on this planet, because we've been operating from scarcity-based mindsets, programs, conditioning, is there a way to go out and pursue finances or even a lot of something, let's call it that, through an egoic strategy? Of course, that's possible. That is what we would consider the old way, the old programming. Has that been possible for other people? Yes. Have they accumulated a lot of wealth in those ways? Yes, absolutely. But what we're experiencing now is a shift on this planet. And so there are some of us, many of us, in fact, of course, I'm not talking in numbers here, that carry codes for a different type of wealth and different forms of getting and obtaining what we need to sustain life on Earth. And what that means is that some of us will be blocked from being able to create wealth or even receive finances in ways that go against the natural creative flow of life. So this video is for you if you not only resonate with this way of moving through the world, but if also you've felt blocked, but if also you've felt blocked from the old way that ultimately can work, but because it's not tapping into your creative energy, your creative life force, what it does is it leaves you depleted. It leaves you burnt out. It leaves you feeling separate from life. It leaves you feeling empty. So you may have accumulated money or wealth, finances, or plenty of whatever it is, but you're still running on a survival based mechanism or programming or way of thinking, you see. So this is why this sort of teaching is so crucial at this time, is that we start to realize that the conditions in the collective are changing to allow this sort of teaching to come through, because we now acknowledge that maybe it was possible in the old paradigm to pursue financial wealth in the old way, but it's actually robbed us of our sense of aliveness, of our sense of abundance, because abundance itself doesn't only pertain to the world of financing. So you might have, let's say in the old paradigm, accumulated a lot of money, for example, but you still don't feel abundant. Why? Because do you have a lot of love? Do you have a lot of connection? Do you have a lot of all the other things that make life worth living? And what we're moving away from is this very deeply ingrained belief system that in order to accumulate financial wealth, in order to have abundance, we need to sacrifice our life force, or we need to sacrifice our integrity, or we need to sacrifice those things that money cannot buy that actually make life worth living. And so, as I said, as I mentioned previously, I will go deeper into money itself. We're not going to do that now, but I wanted to mention this because we've confused abundance with money a lot, whereas abundance is a state of being. Like I was saying, abundance is the feeling that nothing is missing, that nothing is lacking. It is presence itself. It is our very essence. And when you're tapped into this state of being, you don't feel like you lack anything, and that does not have anything to do with the number in your bank account. And I tell you, it's possible because I've experienced it. I know those that have experienced it. It is not a state of having something. It is a state of being, and it's rooted in safety. That's why I was saying it's sacral chakra energy that builds on the root, where you feel safe. You feel provided for by life itself. You feel sustained by life itself. And you feel the flow of life. You give and you receive. You create as well as you witness. And you are intrinsically one with life. You're not separate from it. And it feels organic. It feels natural. So I hope to have added to your understanding of sexual energy, creativity, life force, abundance. I'd love to hear your thoughts and feelings about this topic in the comments section. I always love to read what you feel, what you felt. If you have any suggestions for topics that I might address in the future, I'd also love to hear from you on that. If you are looking for or feeling the pull to do some nervous system regulation around safety, the fear of not having enough, really reprogramming your subconscious mind and tapping into your natural creative flow of abundance, then that's absolutely part of the work that I do. So do check that out. My links are below and with the description of the type of work that I offer one-to-one. I also want to remind you that I have a couple of quantum healing transmissions that are on sale at the moment because we are in eclipse season, Virgo season, and this is an incredibly potent window to get that work done. And especially the womb, heart, voice restoration really assists to restore alignment to your sacral chakra. Of course, the womb being the sacral chakra and the birthplace for creation. And so a lot of those energy leaks and a lot of that siphoning takes place because we're carrying so much distortion in that area through past lovers, trauma, wounding from this life and others. So it is incredibly potent. The healing, I did it myself. I've received incredible feedback from those who have done it already. So don't hesitate to check that out if you're feeling the pull. And I will keep seeing you in the next videos. So excited to show up as always. I hope you're doing well, and I send you lots and lots of love.